So when we're talking about time, we're talking about the time that a note lasts compared to the other notes. And we tend to group that together in a thing we call a measure. And the measure is a little square box looking thing in your music. You've got the 5 lines going along and then a straight up and down line, and that tells you it's the end of the measure. Kind of makes sense. So the most common time that we use is 4/4 time. And in 4/4 time, there are 4 beats in the measure, 4 counts, 1, 2, 3, 4. And a quarter note takes up 1 count. So a whole note takes up the whole measure. A half note takes up half the measure. A quarter note takes up a quarter of the measure. An eighth note takes up an eighth of the measure. A 16th note takes up a 16th of the measure. So if you've got a whole note, you're going to go 1, because it's getting 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, off. Now I've got an example here showing you 4 lines of music, a soprano, an alto, a tenor, and a bass, which is the way we're going to write most of the time this year. And as it goes along, it's going to change every 4 counts. So it's going to change the chord every 4 counts. But it's going to be solidly through the measure, 1 chord. So you could see that was pretty simple. Ba, da, da, da. And some of you are going to write like that for most of the semester. You're going to write the least number of notes you possibly have to write to get a 100. That's fine. Some of you are going to want to add some things that are more interesting. So you're going to have more going on. It still has to add up to 4 counts. Let's see how that works. It's going to take the same chord progression and add a lot more notes. You can tell more notes can be more interesting. Now you can add so many notes that you make it so complicated and Doc starts going along and bleeding, little red lines on there going, nope, not this way, not that way, not that way. We're going to learn a lot of rules about what works to make music sound right. And those rules come down to us from what we call the common practice period. And we all learn with those rules. Later, you can break the rules as much as you want to, but while we're learning them, we're going to stick with those rules. I know, I hated it when I was a freshman in college learning these same rules. I'm like, but I want to do that comes later. Kept getting told. Well, yeah, it does. Sometimes there are things that just come about later. There's sometimes things that, yeah, you can do that, but not for my class. And you can always feel free to experiment and do other stuff you want outside of our class assignment. Just don't turn that in for your class assignment. Okay?